The message came on a cold winter morning in Seoul. It was not a request. It was not an invitation. It was a command from beings who believed they had the right to command. The Galactic Council, a gathering of 43 alien species, had sent Earth an ultimatum. The Vakari Empire, the most powerful force in the known galaxy, wanted humanity's outer colonies. These were the mining stations and research posts that humans had built over 50 years of hard work. The Vakari wanted them all, and they wanted humans to hand them over without a fight. "Send your finest military commanders to Helion Prime," the message said. "You will negotiate the terms of your surrender. Refuse, and we will take what we want by force." In a secure bunker beneath the streets of Seoul, Earth's leaders gathered around a long black table. Maps of the galaxy covered the walls. Red dots marked human territories. Blue dots marked Vakari space. The blue dots surrounded the red ones like a great ocean. Surrounding small islands at Admiral Una Park sat at the head of the table. She was 52 years old, with short gray hair and eyes that revealed nothing. Her uniform was simple, decorated with only a few medals. Most of her real achievements were classified so deeply that even presidents did not know about them. "They want generals," said Minister Kwan, the defense secretary. He was sweating. "They want us to send our best military minds to negotiate." "No," Una said quietly. "They want us to send targets." The room went silent. "The Vakari have done this before," Una continued. "They invite military leaders to negotiate. They study them. They learn how they think, how they plan, how they would fight. Then they use that knowledge to destroy them." She looked around the table. "We will not play their game." "Then what do you suggest?" Minister Kwan asked. "We cannot refuse. They will attack." Una allowed herself a small smile. It was not a warm smile. "We will send a delegation. 5 officers in beautiful uniforms with shiny medals. They will look exactly like what the Vakari expect. Generals, diplomats, bureaucrats." She paused. "But they will not be generals." 3 hours later, Una stood in a smaller room with 4 people. These were not the famous generals whose faces appeared on news broadcasts. These were people whose names existed only in sealed files. People who had spent their lives learning the art of silent death. Colonel Taeho Kim was 45 years old. His service record said he had worked in military intelligence for 20 years. The truth was different. Taeho had spent those 20 years killing people that powerful organizations wanted dead. He had operated on 17 different planets. He spoke 9 languages. He could kill a man in over 200 different ways, and he had used most of them. He stood perfectly still as Una entered, his hands clasped behind his back. His face was calm, almost peaceful. Only his eyes moved, tracking everything in the room. Lieutenant Hannah Cho was the youngest looking of the group, though she was 38. She had a round face and wore glasses that made her look like a librarian. This appearance had saved her life many times. People looked at Hannah and saw a harmless office worker. They did not see the woman who had once destroyed an entire planetary defense network using only a borrowed computer and 6 hours of time. Hannah specialized in technology. She could hack any system, crack any code, and plant digital traps that would not activate until years later. She was also an expert in poisons and chemical weapons, though she preferred the elegance of a well-designed computer virus. Lieutenant Dujanbeek was 29, the true youngest of the team. He had a bright smile and a friendly manner that made everyone trust him instantly. This was his greatest weapon. Daeun was a social engineer, a spy who gathered information through conversation and charm. He could become anyone's best friend in minutes. He could make enemies reveal their deepest secrets. Without ever realizing they had spoken, Do-Yan had once infiltrated a hostile alien government by pretending to be a lost tourist. 3 months later, that government collapsed from the inside, destroyed by information Daeun had gathered during friendly dinners and casual conversations. Captain Mirasong was 40 years old with a serious face and sharp eyes. She specialized in psychological warfare and communications. Mira understood how people thought. She could predict their actions, manipulate their emotions, and break their minds without ever touching them. She had ended wars by sending the right message to the right person at the right time. These four people had never worked together before. They had operated alone, shadows moving through the galaxy, doing the work that official armies could not do. Now they would become a team. Yuna looked at each of them. "You know why you are here? The Vicari situation," Tejo said. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "Yes. Earth is sending a delegation to Helion Prime. Officially, we are sending generals to negotiate. Unofficially," Yuna paused. "We are sending you. What are our orders?" Hannah asked. Her fingers twitched slightly, eager to begin. "Your orders are simple. Go to Helion Prime, look like generals, act like diplomats. And when the moment is right, show the Vekari what humans really are." Duyan grinned. "You want us to scare them?" "I want you to terrify them," Yuna corrected. "The Vekari have conquered 17 civilizations. They believe they understand war. They understand armies and fleets in open battle." She shook her head slowly. "They do not understand us. They do not understand that humans learned long ago that the loudest army does not always win. Sometimes the quiet knife in the dark is more powerful than 1,000 warships." Mira nodded thoughtfully. "We make them afraid of what they cannot see." "Exactly. The Vicari must learn that attacking Earth is not worth the cost. Not because our fleets are stronger, not because our armies are larger, but because they will never see us coming. They will never know who among their allies is actually our agent. They will never sleep peacefully again." Tejo's expression did not change, but something cold moved behind his eyes. "Understood. You will have full authority," Yuna continued. "Whatever you need, whatever you must do, you have my permission. But remember, you must not start a war. You must prevent one. The goal is to make the Vicari choose peace because they fear what will happen if they choose war." The four assassins exchanged glances. They had spent their lives working alone, trusting no one. Now they would trust each other. "When do we leave?" Hannah asked. "Tomorrow morning. A diplomatic shuttle will take you to Helion Prime. You will wear the uniforms of generals. You will carry the credentials of negotiators." Yuna's voice hardened. "But under those uniforms, you will carry what you have always carried. The skills that made you ghosts. The training that made you killers. The patience that made you perfect." She looked at each of them one final time. "Earth is not sending generals to Helion Prime. Earth is sending a message. And you are that message." Tejo straightened his shoulders. Hannah adjusted her glasses. Doyan's smile faded into something more focused. Mira took a slow breath. Tomorrow, they would travel to an alien space station filled with species that had conquered worlds. They would walk into a room full of enemies and pretend to be something they were not. And somewhere in the shadows, they would begin their real work the Vicari wanted to meet. Earth's generals, they were about to meet something far more dangerous. The shuttle dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and Helion Prime filled the windows like a jewel floating in darkness. The station was enormous, larger than any human city. It was built from silver metal and crystal that caught the light of the dying red star it orbited. Towers rose from its surface like the fingers of a giant hand reaching toward space. Yuna stood at the window. Her face reflected in the glass. Behind her, the four members of her team prepared themselves in different ways. Tejo sat perfectly still with his eyes closed. He was running through the station's layout in his mind. Before leaving Earth, he had memorized every corridor, every room, every ventilation shaft. He knew where the guards would be stationed. He knew where the cameras would be watching. He knew where the shadows would be deepest. Hannah typed rapidly on a small device hidden in her sleeve. She was already reaching out to the station's computer network, testing its defenses, looking for weaknesses. The station's security was good, but Hannah had cracked better systems while half asleep. Doyan practiced his smile in a small mirror. It was not vanity. His smile was a weapon, and like any weapon, it needed to be perfect. He adjusted the warmth in his eyes, the openness in his expression. He needed to look trustworthy. He needed to look harmless. Mira read through the intelligence files on the Vicari delegation one more time. She already knew every name, every face, every personal weakness. But repetition was the mother of mastery, and Mira did not believe in being unprepared. Remember, Yuna said without turning from the window, "We are generals. We are diplomats. We are soft, frightened humans who have come to beg for peace. Till we are not," Tejo added quietly. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. Air hissed as the connection sealed. A moment later, the doors opened, and the team stepped onto Hellion Prime. The docking bay was crowded with beings from across the galaxy. There were tall, thin creatures with skin like blue glass. There were short, round beings covered in brown fur. There were things that floated, things that crawled, things that had no shape humans could easily describe. The smell was strange, a mixture of alien bodies and recycled air, but the team's eyes were drawn to the delegation waiting for them at the end of the docking ramp. The Vakari were terrifying. They stood nearly 3 meters tall, with bodies covered in black armor that was not armor at all, but their natural shell. Their heads were triangular, dominated by compound eyes that glittered like dark jewels. Their mouths were surrounded by sharp mandibles that clicked and scraped as they moved at their head. Stood Commander Boro. Even among the Vakari, Boro was impressive. His shell was decorated with gold markings that showed his rank. His mandibles were larger than the others, scarred from ancient battles. He had crushed 17 civilizations beneath his feet. He had broken armies and burned worlds. He was the greatest warrior the Vakari had produced in 300 years. He looked at the human delegation with obvious contempt. "Welcome to Hellion Prime," Boro said. His voice was harsh, like metal scraping against stone. The translator device on his chest converted his clicks and hisses into human words. "We trust your journey was comfortable," Yuna bowed politely. "Very comfortable, thank you. We are grateful for the Council's hospitality." Boro's compound eyes studied her. He saw a small woman in a formal uniform. He saw someone old and tired and afraid. He saw exactly what Yuna wanted him to see. "Your quarters have been prepared," Boro continued. "Negotiations will begin tomorrow. I suggest you rest. The discussions will be intense." There was a threat in his words. Yuna pretended not to notice. "We look forward to finding a peaceful solution," she said. Boro made a sound that might have been laughter. Yes, peaceful, of course. A young Vakari stepped forward to guide the humans to their quarters. He was smaller than Boro, his shell still smooth and unmarked. His name, they would learn, was Psyche. He was Boro's translator and assistant. He was also, though none of the Vakari knew it, the nephew of the Vakari Emperor himself, as they walked through the station's corridors. Doyon fell into step beside Psyche. "This station is beautiful," he said with genuine-sounding wonder. "I've never seen anything like it." Psyche glanced at him with surprise. Most aliens did not speak to Vakari unless required. "It was built 3,000 years ago," Psyche said carefully. "When the Galactic Council was first formed, 3,000 years, and it still looks new." Duyan shook his head in amazement. "Your engineers must be incredible." Psyche's mandibles relaxed slightly. This human seemed friendly, different from the others. "We Vakari take pride in building things that last." "I can tell." Doyon smiled his perfect smile. "I hope we can talk more during the negotiations. I would love to learn about Vakari culture." Behind them, Mira listened to every word. She was already analyzing Psyche, looking for the hooks that Doyon would use to reel him in. The young Vakari was proud of his heritage. He was also, she noticed, slightly uncomfortable around Commander Boro. There was a story there, a weakness they could exploit. Tayo walked silently, his eyes moving constantly. He counted guards. 17 in the docking bay, 23 in the corridors, all armed with plasma weapons. He noted their patrol patterns, the gaps in their coverage. The moments when they looked away, in his mind, he was already planning routes. Escape routes. Attack routes. Routes that would take him to places the Vakari did not want him to go. Hannah walked with her head down, looking at a small tablet. To anyone watching, she appeared to be reading tourist information about the station. In reality, she was mapping the station's electronic network. Every sensor, every camera, every locked door. The station's security system was a web of connected computers, and Hannah was learning its shape. She found her first weakness within 5 minutes, a maintenance system that had not been updated in 200 years. She filed the information away for later. Their quarters were luxurious by human standards. 5 separate rooms connected to a common area, with windows that looked out at the stars. Everything was made from expensive materials. The message was clear. The Galactic Council wanted to impress them, or perhaps intimidate them. Once the doors closed, and they were alone, Yuna activated a small device that created a bubble of silence around them. Any listening devices would hear only static. Impressions. She asked. Boro is overconfident, Mira said immediately. He believes this negotiation is already over. He sees us as prey. Good. Let him. Yuna turned to Tejo. Security? Heavy, but predictable. They follow standard military patterns. I can move through them, Hannah. Their computer systems are old, well-maintained, but built on ancient designs. I can access them within 48 hours. Probably less. Du Yan. The young man's friendly expression was gone, replaced by cold calculation. Psyche is our way in. He is young, idealistic, and uncomfortable with his position. He will talk to me. He will tell me things he should not. Yuna nodded slowly. Then we begin. Remember, first days are about watching, learning. We need to understand everything about the Vicari before we move against them. Be patient. Be invisible. Be exactly what they expect us to be. She looked out the window at the red star burning in the distance. And when the time comes, we show them what Earth really sent to this negotiation. In his quarters aboard the Vicari flagship, Commander Boro reviewed the human delegation's files. 5 officers, 2 decorated admirals, 3 colonels. Impressive records by human standards. He clicked his mandibles in amusement. The humans had sent their best generals, their brightest military minds. They thought this would impress the Vicari. They thought experience and intelligence would matter. They did not understand. The Vicari did not negotiate. They demanded. And when lesser species did not meet their demands, they crushed them. These humans would learn this lesson soon enough. Boro closed the files and went to sleep. Satisfied that everything was going according to plan, he did not notice that his personal computer had been accessed from an outside source. He did not know that his private communications were now being read by analysts back on Earth. He did not suspect that the polite, frightened generals he had met were already taking him apart. Piece by piece, the trap was being set, and Commander Boro was walking directly into it. 3 days passed on Hellion Prime to the watching galaxy. The negotiations were going exactly as everyone expected. The Vicari made demands. The humans asked for time. The Vicari grew impatient. The humans looked frightened. It was a perfect performance. In the negotiation chamber, Yuna played her role with skill. She argued weakly. She made small concessions. She asked for breaks to consult with her team. Every action told the same story. Earth was scared and would eventually surrender. But while Yuna kept the Vicari distracted with theater, her team was doing their real work in the shadows. Tejo moved through the station like smoke. On the first night, he left his quarters through a maintenance hatch that Hannah had unlocked remotely. He wore dark clothes that blended with the station's shadows. His footsteps made no sound on the metal floors. He explored places that humans were not supposed to see. He found the Vicar security headquarters and watched their operations for 2 hours, memorizing patrol schedules and communication codes. He found the station's power core and identified 3 ways to disable it if needed. He found the medical bay and noted which drugs could disable a Vicari without killing them. On the second night, he found something much more interesting in a restricted section of the station. Hidden behind walls of security checkpoints, the Vicari had built a secret room. Inside that room was enough explosive material to destroy Hellion Prime completely. The bombs were designed to look like human technology. Tejo understood immediately. If the negotiations failed, the Vakari planned to destroy the station and blame Earth. They would tell the galaxy that human terrorists had attacked. It would give them an excuse to start a war that no one could criticize. He photographed everything. Then, working carefully in the darkness, he made small modifications to the explosives. Nothing visible. Nothing that would trigger alarms. But if the Vakari tried to use these weapons, they would find that the blast was redirected. Instead of destroying the station, the explosion would destroy only the Vakari's flagship docked nearby. Their own trap would become their grave. Tejo slipped away before dawn, leaving no trace of his visit. While Tejo explored the physical station, Hannah conquered its electronic heart. She worked from her quarters, her fingers dancing across keyboards that she had built herself. The station's security was good, but it was designed to stop aliens who thought like aliens. Hannah did not think like anyone. She thought in code, in patterns, in weaknesses. By the end of the first day, she had access to the station's internal cameras. She could watch anyone, anywhere, without being detected. By the end of the second day, she had cracked the Vakari military network. She read Commander Boro's private messages to his superiors. She learned their battle plans, their fleet positions, their political secrets. One secret was particularly valuable. The Vakari Empire was not as strong as it appeared. Their border territories were restless. Several conquered species were preparing rebellions. The war with Earth was designed to distract the Vakari population from these internal problems. Victory over humanity would unite the Empire. Failure would tear it apart. Hannah sent this information to Earth through channels so secure that even she was not entirely sure how they worked. On the third day, she did something even more impressive. She planted a ghost in the navigation computer of the Vakari flagship. It was a tiny piece of code, smaller than a single letter in a book. It did nothing. It waited. If Earth ever needed to find the Vakari fleet, if they ever needed to disable their ships, if they ever needed to end a war before it truly began, that ghost would wake up. And the Vakari would never know what had happened until it was too late. Doyan's weapon was not technology. It was friendship. Every day he found excuses to spend time with Psyche, the young Vakar translator. They ate meals together in the station's common areas. They walked through the botanical gardens where alien plants from 100 worlds grew in careful arrangements. They talked about culture, history, art, and dreams. Psyche had never met anyone like Doyan. The human seemed genuinely interested in Vakari civilization. He asked thoughtful questions. He listened carefully to the answers. He laughed at jokes and shared stories of his own. Slowly, Psyche began to trust him. Commander Boro does not believe in negotiation, Psyche admitted one evening. They were sitting in a quiet corner of the gardens, surrounded by flowers that glowed with soft blue light. He believes the strong should take what they want from the weak. And what do you believe? Doyan asked gently. Psyche was quiet for a moment. I believe the Empire has made enemies when it could have made friends. I believe we are not as powerful as we pretend to be. I believe. He stopped, suddenly aware that he was saying too much. Doyan placed a hand on Psyche's arm. I will not repeat your words to anyone. You have my promise. Psyche looked at him with compound eyes that reflected the glowing flowers. Why are you being kind to me? Your people and mine may soon be at war. Because war is not inevitable, Doyan said. And because I believe there are good people on both sides who want peace. People like you. It was manipulation. Doyan knew exactly what words would earn Psyche's trust. But somewhere beneath the calculation, a small part of him meant what he said. Psyche was not like Commander Boro. He was young and hopeful and trapped in a system he did not entirely believe in another life. They might have been real friends. Over the following days, Psyche told Doyan many things. He told him about the Emperor's failing health. He told him about the power struggles between different Vakari factions. He told him about Boro's plans to use the negotiations as a stepping stone to greater political power. And he told him something that changed everything. There is a plot, Seki whispered one night. His voice was barely audible. Some of Boro's officers want to kill me and blame it on your people. They think it will force the Emperor to authorize immediate war. Duyan kept his expression calm, but inside his mind was racing. Why would they kill you specifically? Saki's mandibles clicked nervously. Because I am the Emperor's nephew. My death would demand blood revenge. This was the leverage they needed. If Earth could prove that Boro planned to murder an imperial prince, the entire Vakari delegation would be disgraced. The war would be stopped before it started, Doyen reported to Yuna that night. The team gathered in their secure bubble of silence. Boro plans to assassinate Psyche and blame us, Doyen said. If we can expose this plot, we win. How certain is your source? Yuna asked. Very certain. Psyche has no reason to lie to me. He is afraid. Mira nodded slowly. This matches what I have observed. Boro's officers have been meeting secretly. Their body language suggests conspiracy. They are planning something they expect to happen soon. The weapons cache, Teho added. They are connected. Kill the prince, destroy the station, blame humanity. It is a complete plan. Yuna was silent for a long moment. Outside the window, the red star continued its ancient burning. Then we must move faster than they expect, she finally said. We cannot wait for them to act. We must expose them before they can execute their plan. Hannah asked. Yuna's smile was cold. We give them what they want. We make them believe they are winning. We let them grow confident, and then we show them exactly how badly they have underestimated us. She turned to face her team. Tomorrow, in the negotiation chamber, we end this. But we do it our way. Not with weapons. Not with violence. We do it with truth, with information, with fear. She looked at each of them in turn. The assassin, the hacker, the spy, the psychological warrior. The Vakari believe they are predators and we are prey. Tomorrow, we teach them how wrong they are. Tomorrow, we show them that the most dangerous creature is not the one that roars the loudest. It is the one that waits in silence. The team nodded. They had come to Hellion Prime as shadows wearing the masks of generals. Tomorrow, the masks would come off, and the Vakari would finally see what Earth had really sent to negotiate. The negotiation chamber was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. 43 species had sent observers to watch the confrontation between the Vakari Empire and humanity. They sat in rising rows of seats that surrounded a central floor where the delegations faced each other. The room smelled of tension and alien bodies. Translators hummed as dozens of languages were converted into something everyone could understand. Camera drones floated near the ceiling, broadcasting the proceedings to billions of watching eyes on hundreds of worlds. This was the 5th day of negotiations. Everyone expected it to be the last. Commander Boro stood at the center of the Vakari delegation. His black shell gleamed under the lights. His mandibles clicked with barely contained impatience. Behind him stood 12 of his officers, their weapons visible on their belts. Admiral Yuna Park stood opposite him. She looked small and old and tired. Behind her stood her team, still wearing their uniforms of generals. They looked exactly like what they had pretended to be for 5 days. Frightened diplomats who knew they had already lost. Boro raised his arm for silence. The chamber fell quiet. We have wasted enough time, Boro announced. His translated voice echoed through the room. Earth has offered nothing acceptable. Your outer colonies belong to the Vakari Empire now. Your people will leave them within 30 standard days. Any resistance will be met with force. Murmurs rippled through the watching representatives. This was not negotiation. This was conquest. Yuna stepped forward. Her voice was calm. Commander Boro, we ask for more time to consider your proposal. There is no more time. Boro's mandibles spread wide in a display of dominance. You will accept our terms now, or this delegation will return to Earth with nothing. And then we will take what we want anyway. The chamber held its breath. Yuna was silent for a long moment. Then something changed in her expression. The fear disappeared. The weariness faded. What remained was something cold and sharp, like the edge of a blade that had been hidden beneath soft cloth. Commander Boro, she said quietly, you have made 3 very serious mistakes. Boro's compound eyes narrowed. This was not how prey was supposed to behave. What did you say? 3 mistakes, Yuna repeated. Her voice carried clearly through the silent chamber. Allow me to explain them to you. She raised one finger. First, beneath this station, in a restricted section that you believed was secret, you have hidden explosive devices. These devices are designed to look like human weapons. Your plan was simple. If negotiations failed, you would destroy this station and blame Earth. The galaxy would see us as terrorists, and no one would question your war. Shock rippled through the watching representatives. Boro's officers shifted uncomfortably. However, Yuna continued, your weapons have been modified. If you try to use them now, they will not destroy the station. They will destroy only your flagship. Your own trap has become your grave. Boro's mandibles clicked rapidly. Impossible. Your security, is not as good as you believe. Yuna raised a second finger. Second, for the past 72 hours, all of your communications have been monitored. We know about your political plans. We know about the unrest in your border territories. We know that this war was designed to distract your population from internal problems. She paused. We also know about your plan to murder Psyche. The young translator's head snapped toward Boro. What? Yuna's eyes did not leave Boro's face. Your commander planned to have you killed and blame humanity for your death. You are the Emperor's nephew. Your murder would force the Empire into war. It would make Boro a hero and eliminate a potential political rival at the same time. This is lies. Boro roared. But his officers were looking at each other now. Some of them were stepping away from their commander. We have recordings, Yuna said simply. Conversations between your officers planning the assassination. We have already transmitted copies to your Emperor. A shuttle is being sent to arrest you, Commander Boro. It left the Imperial homeworld 6 hours ago. The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted questions. Camera drones swirled frantically. Boro's officers were arguing among themselves, some reaching for weapons, others raising their hands in surrender. Boro himself stood frozen, his compound eyes fixed on Yuna with something that might have been disbelief. You cannot know these things, he said. You are generals, diplomats. You do not have the capabilities. Yuna raised her third finger. That brings us to your third mistake, the most serious one. She stepped closer to Boro, though she barely reached his chest. She did not seem small anymore. She seemed like something ancient and dangerous, wearing the shape of a woman. You assumed Earth sent generals, people who think in armies and fleets, people who fight with ships and soldiers in open battle. Behind her, her team moved. Not dramatically, not violently. They simply spread out across the chamber floor, each one positioning themselves with the casual precision of predators who knew exactly where their prey would run. We are not generals, Commander Boro. We are something much older, something much more dangerous. Boro reached for his weapon. His hand closed on empty air. He looked down at his belt in confusion. His holster was empty. Around the room, his officers were discovering the same thing. Their weapons had vanished. They looked at each other in growing panic. Doyan smiled pleasantly from across the room. His pockets bulged with stolen equipment. The thing about assassins, said a voice directly behind Boro's second-in-command, is that we do not announce ourselves. The Vekri officer spun around. Tejo stood there, less than an arm's length away. No one had seen him move. No one knew how he had crossed the room without being noticed. He held nothing in his hands, but his stillness was somehow more threatening than any weapon. We just arrive. Tejo finished quietly. Boro's personal shield generator hummed to life automatically, creating a protective field around his body. For a moment, he looked relieved. Then the shield flickered and died. That was me, Hannah said. She stood nearby, a small device in her hand. Your shield operates on frequency 47.3. I have known that since our first day here. Boro felt something press against the joint where his arm met his body. He looked down to see Lieutenant Hannah Cho standing beside him, a neural disruptor aimed at the gap in his natural armor. He had not even seen her approach. 1 pulse, Hannah said calmly, and your entire right side will be paralyzed for 6 hours. 2 pulses, and the damage becomes permanent. Please remain still. The chamber had gone completely silent. The representatives from 43 species stared at the scene before them. They had come to watch a negotiation. They had witnessed something else entirely. Admiral Una Park stood in the center of it all, her hands clasped behind her back. Earth does not want war, Commander Boro. We never have. We came here hoping for peace, but we prepared for something else. We always prepare for something else. She looked up at the watching representatives, at the camera drones, at the billions of eyes that were seeing this moment across the galaxy. Let this be a message to everyone. Earth is not a soft target. We are not prey. We do not fight wars the way you expect. We do not march armies across fields or send fleets against fleets. Her voice hardened. We send people like these. People who can walk through your security like ghosts. People who can read your secrets before you finish writing them. People who can take your weapons from your hands without you ever feeling it. She turned back to Boro. The commander stood rigidly, Hannah's weapons still pressed against his body. For every general you see, Commander, there are 100 soldiers you will never see. We learned long ago that the loudest army does not always win. The quiet ones do. The doors to the chamber opened. A squad of station security officers entered. Led by representatives of the Galactic Council, Commander Boro, one of them announced. You are under arrest pending investigation into conspiracy to commit mass murder and assassination of an Imperial family member. As the security officers approached, Boro finally found his voice. You will regret this, he hissed at Una. The Empire will not forget. Una met his compound eyes without flinching. Neither will we, Commander. Neither will we. The officers led Boro away. His staff followed, some under arrest, others as witnesses. The chamber slowly emptied as the representatives left to report what they had seen. Within hours, story would spread across the galaxy. Earth had faced the Vakari Empire and won, not through military power, not through political pressure, through something nobody had expected, through shadows wearing the masks of generals, through assassins in army suits. 6 hours after Commander Boro's arrest, the Vakari Empire officially withdrew its demands for Earth's outer colonies. The message came directly from the Imperial Palace, signed by the Emperor himself. It spoke of misunderstandings, rogue officers, and the importance of peaceful relations between species. It did not apologize. The Vakari did not apologize. But the meaning was clear enough. Earth had won. In the common area of their quarters, the team gathered one final time. Outside the window, the red star continued its ancient burning, unchanged by the events of the past days. Ships were departing from Helion Prime, carrying representatives back to their homeworlds, with stories that would change how the galaxy saw humanity forever. Una stood by the window, watching the ships leave. Her reflection looked tired but satisfied. The council has requested that we remain for the formal closing ceremony, she said. They want to thank us for exposing the Vakari plot. Thank us. Hannah raised an eyebrow. They are afraid of us.
Yes,
Una agreed. And that fear will keep us safe. For now, Tejo sat in a chair in the corner, as still as ever. Boro will be punished. His officers will be imprisoned. But the Vakari Empire itself remains. They will remember this embarrassment. Let them remember, Mira said. She was reviewing data on her tablet, already thinking about the future. Every time they think about attacking Earth, they will remember what happened here. They will wonder who among their allies might be one of our agents. They will check their computers for our ghosts. They will look over their shoulders for our shadows. That is the point, Una said. We did not come here to defeat the Vakari. We came here to make them afraid of what defeating us would cost. Duen was quiet. He sat apart from the others, looking at something on a small screen. After a moment, Hannah noticed his expression. Something wrong? Doyan hesitated. I received a message from Seiki. The team exchanged glances. Seiki had been taken away by Imperial authorities after Boro's arrest. As the Emperor's nephew and a witness to the conspiracy, he was being returned home for his own protection. What does he say? Yuna asked. Doyen read from the screen. He says thank you. He says I saved his life by warning him about the assassination plot. Paused. He says he hopes that one day our species can be true friends instead of enemies. There was a moment of silence. The mission had been about deception, manipulation, and fear. But somewhere in the middle of all that, something genuine had happened. Maybe he is right, Yuna said finally. Maybe someday. But not yet. Not while there are still those who see us as prey. She turned to face her team. What we did here will have consequences. The galaxy now knows that humanity is not what it appeared to be. Some species will want to make alliances with us. Others will want to destroy us before we become too powerful. The next few years will be dangerous. Are you asking if we are ready for more missions? Tejo asked. Yuna smiled slightly. I am telling you that more missions are coming, whether we are ready or not. Earth will need people like us. People who can walk through shadows. People who can win wars without firing a shot. Then we will be ready, Hannah said. It was not a boast. It was a simple statement of fact. That evening, the team attended the formal closing ceremony of the negotiations. They wore their uniforms of generals, their medals shining under the lights. They shook hands with representatives from dozens of species. They accepted words of thanks and congratulations. Nobody mentioned what had really happened. Nobody talked about stolen weapons or hacked computers or modified explosives. The official story was that Earth's delegation had discovered a conspiracy through standard intelligence work. Clean, professional, believable. But when the representatives looked at the human team, there was something new in their eyes. Something that had not been there before. Respect mixed with fear. Understanding mixed with uncertainty. They had come to Helion Prime thinking they knew what humans were. They were leaving knowing that they had no idea at all. The shuttle ride back to Earth took 3 days. The team spent most of that time resting, recovering from the intense mission. But on the last night before arrival, Yuna called them together one more time. I have been reviewing the intelligence we gathered, she said. The Vekari are not our only problem. Several other empires have been watching us. They are curious about what happened at Helion Prime. Some of them are already making plans. What kind of plans? Mira asked. Different kinds. The Torvin Collective wants to propose an alliance. The Kresh Federation is increasing patrols near our borders. The Mechanical Consensus has started building a new fleet. They are testing us, Tejo said. Seeing how we respond? Exactly. What we did at Helion Prime bought us time and respect, but it also painted a target on our backs. We showed the galaxy that humanity is more dangerous than anyone realized. Now, everyone wants to know exactly how dangerous we are. She pulled up a display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked Earth's territories. Dozens of other colors marked the territories of alien empires. Humanity was still small, still surrounded, still outnumbered by almost every measure. But they were no longer seen as weak. The next few years will determine humanity's future, Yuna continued. We will need diplomats and soldiers. We will need scientists and explorers. And we will need people like us. People who work in the spaces between. People who make sure that our enemies never feel safe enough to attack. She looked at each member of her team in turn. I am not going to ask if you want to continue. I know you do. This is who we are. This is what we were made for. Tejo nodded slowly. Where do we start? The Kresh Federation. Their increased patrols suggest they are considering something. I want to know what? Yuna turned off the display. After we report to command, you will have 2 weeks of rest. Then we begin again. The shuttle landed in Seoul on a gray morning. Rain was falling from heavy clouds, washing the streets clean. The team disembarked in civilian clothes, looking like ordinary travelers returning from an ordinary trip. No one would look at them twice. No one would guess that these 5 people had just changed the course of galactic history. They parted ways at the terminal, each disappearing into the city to their own lives. They would not contact each other during the rest period. They would not meet. They would become invisible again, ordinary citizens in an ordinary world, until the next call came. Yuna was the last to leave. She stood in the terminal for a moment, watching her team vanish into the crowd. Rain streaked down the windows beside her. Her phone buzzed. A message from command. Confirming their success and scheduling the debriefing, she put the phone away and walked out into the rain, somewhere across the galaxy. The Vakari Emperor was dealing with the aftermath of Boro's disgrace. Somewhere, Psyche was wondering if he would ever see his human friend again. Somewhere, representatives of 43 species were reporting to their governments that Earth is not what anyone had thought. And somewhere in Seoul, 5 assassins in ordinary clothes were disappearing into ordinary lives. Waiting for the next Shadow War to begin, Earth had sent its message to the stars. Not with fleets or armies, not with threats or promises, but with 5 people who had walked into an enemy stronghold and taken it apart from the inside without firing a single shot. The galaxy was vast and dangerous. There were empires that had conquered worlds. There were species that had destroyed civilizations. There were threats that humanity had not yet imagined. But now they all knew something important. Now they all understood something that would make them hesitate. Before moving against Earth, humans did not fight fair. Humans did not fight loud. Humans did not send generals. To solve their problems, they sent something else. Something quieter. Something more dangerous. Something that smiled politely and shook your hand while mapping every weakness you possessed. And by the time you realized what they really were, it was already too late. The rain continued to fall over Seoul. The city went about its business, unaware of what had been done in its name. And 5 shadows rested in its streets, waiting for the darkness to call them again. The war for humanity's place in the galaxy had just begun. But Earth had already won the first battle, not with generals, with ghosts.